Hey, BookTube. Um, I first want to apologize for my little experiment yesterday. If you watched my Mars video, you will notice that I come across as a total tweaking meth head. Um, and that is because I sped the video up because after I recorded the video, I noticed that it was like 25 minutes long. And I was like, whoa, like 25 minutes of me banging on about three books might be a bit much. So instead of cutting a bunch out, I just sped the video up. And I might have induced anxiety or panic attacks. Zoe couldn't get through 5 minutes of it before she got super anxious and stuff. So, to not Mary Hart you guys, I decided to apologize and not do that again. So sorry. I'm very, 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 very sorry. So, with that said, I'm going to talk about a John Carter book. Okay, so Synthetic Men of Mars. Here's your Michael Whalen cover. Let me see if I could make this a little less bright. Now, he looks really weird, that red guy right there, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And it's got that awesome fly on it. Okay, this book has some cool stuff in it. First off, that Raz guy, the scientist who was in Mastermind of Mars, who was the Mastermind of Mars. Well, let me actually start here. The thing that I thought was really weird about this was that the most dramatic thing in this book, you're just told about. It already happened. And I feel like that is the kind of fault of this book. So very early on in the book, you find out that Deja Thoris, who is the Princess of Mars, was in a flyer accident and broke her back, and her body was kind of mangled. Now that's like huge stuff in this world, like, and just as a storyline, like she's been untouched in every book. Like, yes, she gets captured, yes, she gets bound, but she's never like injured, you know? So the book starts off with John Carter and is it Vordage? Yeah, Vordage. Trying to find either Ulysses, whose name is Vadvaro, or Raz, to try to. He thinks that if anyone would be able to fix Deja Thoris, it would be one of them. So, while they are trying to get to where Vadvaro, the other guy from Earth who ended up at Mars, long story short, they're almost kind of there, and just picture a couple giant turkeys flying up in the air with a bunch of dudes on them, and so they have a fight, and as they're fighting, they're cutting off like limbs of these like bad guys or whatever, and even if they cut the heads off, the bodies are still coming at them, and the heads are still talking. And what we find out is that Raz is in this like little country thing, city, or I forget what they call them. And he's making an army of these dudes that like have like no, they're just like synthetic men, huh? And he feeds them this like fake food stuff that like is what they make the people out of, that kind of regenerates. It's really kind of gross, like when you think about it. But and can't remember what the people are called. The synthetic men. We'll just call them synthetic men. But they're like this dude, this big red guy. Like they're kind of deformed and hideous and all this other shit. But the thing that's cool, so John Carter and oh man, I'm so bad with remembering these names. Vordaj. I could read it 100 times and I would still be like, because when I'm reading books like this and there's like weird names of things, I just recognize what that is and keep going. Like I don't go, oh, how would I pronounce this if I were talking about it? So when they get captured, there's another prisoner who is Janai, and she is a, well, Vordaj kind of falls for her in typical Barsoomian fashion, where you see somebody and then fall in love with them. So when they get to the palace, they find out that Raz is actually there, the guy they were looking for in the first place. And so they're going to try to bust him out and get him back to Helium so he could try to heal Dejah Thoris. But they decide that the best way to infiltrate the palace guard and all this stuff is to put Vordaj's brain into one of these hideous beast things that that the army of this town is. And of course Raz could do that because that's all he did in Mastermind of Mars. So he puts this dude's brain in this other body, and pretty much as soon as that happens, Vordaj is on his own, and John Carter and Raz are like missing, and he doesn't know where his body is, so he can't like, he's like, oh no, I'm stuck like this forever. And then he ends up coming into contact with Janai, and does this whole thing that lasts basically the whole book, where he's in love with this girl, but he doesn't want her to know that he's who he is, because he doesn't want her to associate that ugly, hideous face with the guy that he thinks she's in love with and all this other stuff. So it's like kind of like a cool twist on the plot of Mastermind of Mars. But this was pretty fun, and just having it from that angle, because he's the one who the point of view of the story is told. So it's not like we're hearing this story from John Carter. In fact, we're hearing this story from Vordaj told to Ulysses Paxton, who is then transmitting it via Morse code to Jason Gridley and Tarzana. So that's how the story is getting to Earth. But so that was just, it was a real fun book. it wasn't the best book in the series, obviously, but it was fun. And again, I just wanted to tell you how sorry I am for coming across as a lunatic yesterday. So if you haven't seen that video yet, go watch it and have yourself some fun. And don't blame me if like you have a seizure or anything from it. So until next time, everybody.